Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. This is the card that we are going to be creating today. This is a 5 by 5 inch square card. The card base is made out of 110-pound Nina Solar White, and then I have a 5 by 5 piece of 80-pound Nina Solar White card that I'm going to start with. These two pieces of paper are just some scrap paper. They are 80-pound Nina Solar White, but it doesn't really matter what they are. And because they're going to be covered up. And then I just have, this is the little Tim Holtz replacement for the mixed media mat. And I find this a perfect size that I can just pop on my desk and use for ink blending. So I just put it down and it sticks really nice. The back is kind of sticky. And I'm using some Lucky Clover. It's kind of a darkish green, a medium green maybe, and I'm just going to cover up this whole piece of white card. And I'm just using a little piece of scrap paper there for my fingers because otherwise I would have my fingerprints all over this piece of paper. Then I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the Mowed Lawn colour, which is a slightly lighter green. And as I said, these are just scrap pieces of paper that I am covering, and I am going to end up flicking some water on these. I must say, it must be the only person, but I do not like the look of flicking water. I think people do the most gorgeous ink blending and spend so much time doing it, and then they flick water on it. And so, anyhow, it's just not my thing. But today, for the first time almost on a card, I am going to flick water on these. And I want to do that because I want kind of a lot of variation. These are going to become leaves when I cut them out. So I want lots of close together little small water splatters. So that's what I'm aiming for anyway. And I'm just using my little water sprayer, and I've taken the top out and I'm just tapping it with my finger. There are lots of different ways to apply small splatters. The smaller the paintbrush in general that you use, the smaller the splatters you get, and therefore the bigger paintbrush, the bigger splatters that you get. But anyway, I'm going to dab it off lightly with a little cloth, and then I am going to dry this really well. So I'm using my heat gun because I'm impatient and because time is never on my side. And so I'm going to dry them really, really well, because when you're die cutting things, you want it to be as dry, the paper to be as dry as possible. So I'm going to do it front and back to make sure that they are super dry. Anyway, from there I am also going to do one more piece, and I'm going to use the Shaded Lilac, which is this lighter purple colour, and then I am going to add a little bit of the Wilted Violet, which is kind of quite a dark purple colour. And this doesn't really have to be blended at all because I am going to cut some flowers out of this, and because the flowers are so tiny, you really the blending is just not important. You don't end up seeing it, sort of thing. So I'm just doing 3 sort of blotches on this piece of paper. Again, this is just a scrap I think I have. I keep all my scraps of Nina Solar White 80-pound paper in a pile, and I just kind of dig through them anytime I end up cutting up a sheet. Anyway, so these are the wee flowers I'm going to use. These flowers are from AliExpress, and I'll try and link them down below, although I did buy them a little while ago, so I'll see if they are still available. And I'm just picking like no real spots in particular, but when I take them out of the sheet, I am keeping the 3 different sizes of the flowers together. So they kind of come attached as 3, and you can separate them if you want, definitely, but I keep them together just for the sake of trying not to lose them. And I am die cutting out these ones, and so I'm going to put them all together. Each set of 3, I put them together to make one flower. So I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid adhesive. This one in particular is the multi-medium in the matte finish from Ranger. That's what's inside this little squeezy bottle, and I'm just going to pile them up. I think I ended up making maybe 5 or 6 flowers, and I only end up using 3 on the final card, but I wasn't sure at this time sort of how full I was going to need to make the center, so I just made up a few, and I'll use them on another project somewhere, or my daughter will have plenty of fun playing probably. I must say that the colours of these flowers kind of remind me of a hydrangea flower, and so maybe that's what it kind of looked like to me, so I wasn't sure how many I was going to need. Anyhow, now I have these two green pieces, they're nice and dry, and I have this branch on the left, which is from AliExpress, and these two on the right, the two leaves, are from my favourite flower set from AliExpress, which I'll also try and link down below. And they are all done and dusted. Now I have this my card base and my card front here, and I'm going to cut my card front down a little bit just so that it creates a matte layer. And then I also am going to have this lavender kind of colour here. This is a piece from the Nina pack that I always use, the 72 pieces colours that I always use. It's my go-to coloured cardstock if I'm not going to colour my own. And you can see here I'm using the lavender one, but in a minute I'm going to switch it out and go to a darker purple, which is here, because I just like this a little bit better with the purples that are in the flowers that I created. I'm just going to show you something quickly. I like to lift up each one of the petals on my flowers, and it makes such a difference. You can see here, I'm going to zoom in a second, and you'll be able to see the difference that it makes between the flat ones and the ones that you've kind of given a little zhuzh up. So the top one there I have made pretty, and the bottom one is flat. So now they've all been given a little bit of zhuzhing, and they look much better to me. This card is quite dimensional. It does have kind of a bit of height to it. Not too much, not too bad. I don't use any foam tape or anything, but I am going to hand deliver this to my sister. This is a card for her, so I wasn't worried about how much dimension all of these layers created. So this is how I'm going to lay it out. I had originally thought I would have 3 layers of the kind of greenery, and I would use the Twisted Citron, the kind of a bright light green on the oxide colours, but it really just didn't look, it didn't quite sit right. So I really like how this card ended up. This is one of my favourites that I've created in a long time. I don't know why, I really like it. And the sentiment is going to say, "To the best sister ever." And this stamp set is from Ali, and I will try and link that down below as well. And my sister really is the best sister ever. She is so kind and so supportive, and we have a really close relationship. So she is the best sister ever. So I'm going to stamp this out in my Mini Misty. I'm going to use some VersaFine Onyx Black ink and stamp it out as straight as I can, although I am keeping the words kind of as they were, because I know that that's where it fits with all the floral arrangement. Now, does anyone else do this? I put in an extra piece of paper and I stamp it out to check that I like the look of how I've laid them out. Sometimes when I'm looking at just the like the acrylic stamps, I think I've got them straight, and then when I stamp them, I'm like, how did I ever think that was straight? So nowadays I usually do a test piece and check that it actually is straight when I stamp it out. So anyway, that's what I was doing, and now I've stamped it on the actual little card front, and I have this the darker purple piece, which is just going to be a matting layer, and I'm going to put some double-sided adhesive around all 4 sides with one little dot in the middle. And I'm going to do my little trick as per usual to line it up. This is honestly my favorite go-to trick, which is just each one of the little corners, and I don't think I've failed at it yet. However, I do appreciate that lots of you guys give me little hints and tips all the time about using a heat gun to heat up the adhesive, and that way you can remove it easier if you make a bit of a mistake. So I do really appreciate all the little tips that you guys give me. Now guys, this is so cool. Right, these are my brand new Tim Holtz scissors. This is the largest pair that you can have here. And I have this, I think it's 5 centimeter wide foam tape. This foam tape is incredibly sticky. It sticks to everything. And these scissors are gliding right through it with absolutely nothing being stuck on the blades. So I don't know, but that's, I think, the first time that I've really used them on some really strong adhesive, and I'm impressed. So long may it last. Yeah, I was impressed when I was cutting through this foam. Okay, anyway, I am putting this little card front down on my actual card, and I wanted to kind of have the card all put together before I put the floral arrangement on just because I knew that it would take a little bit to dry because it was going to be so bulky. So from here, I've just put down a good amount of adhesive on the paper, and I'm kind of just setting out the branches as I want them to be, or the leaves, and I will add a little bit more adhesive under the ones that don't have very much holding them down just yet. I was kind of just getting the layout, and this is the good thing about liquid adhesive, is that you are able to move them around until you have the layout looking as you want it to look. So as I said, I do end up using quite a bit of adhesive, but A, I want this to stay in place, and B, it can dry for as long as it needs to, and I'd rather know that it's all secure. So yeah, adding plenty of adhesive and just setting these little leaves out as I want them to go. Isn't it funny, I don't if you guys do this as well, but I end up making several cards in a row that I really, really love, and then I make several dud cards that I just like, they just don't work. They don't feel good to me. And then all of a sudden you start making good cards again. Do you guys have periods like that as well, where you make dud cards and then good cards? I have noticed it myself. I go through, yeah, it's really strange. But anyhow, so this, hopefully I'm in a little row of good cards at the moment, because this one is one of my favorites, as I said earlier, but it is. So as I said, adding plenty of adhesive to these 3 flowers so that they stay put, and even maybe a hot glue gun would be really good for that too. I'm just going to add some crushed grape little Nuvo drops out and about around the card, and we are done. That's this card. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this card. I sure enjoyed it, so I will see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.